Hi, everyone. This beautiful kitten, about 8 months old now, this is Chocolate, and I'm showing you that that big mass of hair that he has had is now gone for a summer cut, they call it. See, he is now down to hair on his head and his legs along with his brother. And I'm going to let him down because he is saying it is not a kitty thing to sit in front of a camera. But everybody always asks me what's going on with Chocolate and with Fluffy. And I've even met people recently on 2 trips in the airport. And they've come up to me and said, I know you, Linda, and I love Fluffy and Chocolate. And then they tell me about their cats. So there is a bonding that is going on around the love of animals that I and others feel. And it makes me happy that so many of you love animals like I do. And being with Fluffy and Chocolate is a kick every day. They're becoming more and more clowns in their relationship with each other and with me, and they will hide and play peekaboo. But they're also restless cats, and they won't hold very long here. So at the beginning of some of my YouTube channels, I'm going to try to keep introducing them periodically. And thank you for everybody who is always sending good wishes for Fluffy and Chocolate. Now, another area that I've been getting a lot of inquiries about is where will you be speaking over the next 3 or 4 months? And so I thought I would go through at the beginning tonight with upcoming conferences, each one between now and June. I'm going to read some of the details and dates, and for everybody to know that Lori, who works with me on social media, she will be posting all of the hot links for registration and tickets with each of these in our social media work. And they're all listed at my earthfiles.com in conferences and appearances. If you go to the headlines page to the right, there's conferences and appearances. You click on that and you'll see everything that I'm going over now. But let's start and go chronologically. We're now at April 18th. I just got back from 5 days in Eureka Springs. It was a wonderful conference, and we were all feeling sort of and expressing the same thing, that there seems to be these two fundamental notes on the planet now, a feeling of chaos and breakup and revolution, but at the same time, there were young people, there were middle-aged, there were older, there were some people who had been coming to all the Eureka Springs conferences, to a lot of brand new people. And what impressed me and the other speakers was how much the audience is up to speed on a lot of subjects, and they are expressing the same thing that I and other speakers have been hoping for several months, that this is the year that we get that headline, "We're not alone in the universe." And that seemed to be a kind of fundamental theme among everybody, that we have gone a long way past where the government hoped to keep everybody by policies of denial and lies about other life in the universe. And it isn't working. The populations are beginning to outstretch whatever policies there have been, and that is encouraging. And so as I go into where I will be speaking, the next is going to be May 4 to 6, and this is that Mile High Mystery Conference that David Paulides has put together in Colorado. He is the foremost investigator of missing people, and he is also extremely interested in Sasquatch, UFOs, and the issue of animal mutilations. And that's going to be sort of the big overall umbrella of this Mile High Mystery Conference, May 4 to 6, 2018 at the Sally Bush Community Center. This is in Green Mountain Falls, Colorado, which is just south of Denver, and it is very close to Manitou Springs. Beautiful, beautiful area. And this is a historic town. Manitou Springs is famous because it has mineral springs that people have gone to for health and invigoration. It is also a place where there are assortments of all kinds of dining and tourist places in that area. And at the Mile High Mystery Conference, David said that we are all going to be provided complimentary pizza lunch on Saturday, May 5th. That means free pizza. And there will be snacks and drinks that will be offered throughout the entire weekend. There's going to be some very interesting presentations, including David's. I'm going to be going over some cases that I have that include Sasquatch, aliens, and UFOs. So I hope to see a lot of you who come to my Earth Files YouTube channel that are in the Colorado region. Please make it to that conference, May 4th to 6th at the Sally Bush Community Center in Green Mountain Falls, Colorado, near Manitou Springs. Come up and shake my hand, and it's always fun to share what you know and what I might have some context for. These conference discussions sometimes lead to all kinds of other discoveries and my being able to do other reporting. So I truly value the ability to talk with people who come to these conferences. Now, going chronologically, from May 4 to 6 in Colorado, in just a few days after that, May 10th, I will be in New York City. I'm going to be, Alan Steinfeld has organized at a place called the Assemblage. It is a fascinating development. There are two in Manhattan, one more midtown. This is down in the Village on the east side. And this will be where I'm going to do a presentation that I am evolving. I did a variation on this in Eureka Springs, and the reaction from people was tremendous. The one in New York City, I will have updates that I already am working on and expanding, and the title is Whistleblower Revelations about Artificial Intelligence and an Alien Presence. There is a lot in this presentation. And this assemblage, if you look up THEASSEMBLAGE, it is an effort by people who have purchased these two places in New York to provide a conference place where people can also stay, and to emphasize all areas having to do with evolving consciousness on a planet that feels like it's in trouble. And if people could expand and evolve more quickly, that it might help. And that is what the assemblage is devoted to. And this one is at 17 John Street in downtown Manhattan. I'm going to be speaking on May 10th. It will begin at 7 p.m. And the tickets are now at a website ready to take tickets and registration at newrealitiesevents.com. And Lori will have all this information at our social media. And if anybody has any questions that aren't answered, please email me at earthfiles@earthfiles.com and just say, Linda, here's my question. And then I will refer you to Alan Steinfeld, who is producing this event in New York on May 10th starting at 7 p.m. I hope a lot of you can make it, because what I'm going to be presenting, I think, is some of the most important information that is new, current, and expanding, it seems like now, all the time about AI. And then we're going to get in a plane and fly up to Boston. And from Boston, we're going up to Vermont. And here is a description by Mia Ferriato, who is organizing the Vermont event. And she is describing that we're going to be going to, it is like a horse farm where they have some buildings where we can have this conference, or this more of a small venue than in a city. And there will be 6 speakers from a variety of fields in consciousness and having to do with an alien presence. And this is going to cover from May 11th to May 14th. The location is in Vershire, 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 Vermont. This will be a small, intimate gathering in which the 6 speakers, the organizers, and about 25 or 30 people, we will be together in a close conversation in events on this horse farm in Vermont. And she emphasized that there is locally grown produce from a lot of farms there, and the food is delicious. And the presenters will be David Lewis. He communicates with animals. Marilyn Gawaki, PhD. She's going to present techniques on developing our multidimensional consciousness. And this is in preparation for an evening with her of meditation and connecting to other intelligences. Rebecca Hardcastle Wright, also PhD. She will present and explore what it means to be what she calls an exo-conscious human. And that means we are humans coming into a new evolutionary breakthrough in which the whole planet is finally going to get on the same page, recognizing that we are only one on Earth of many, many intelligences in this universe, and that it is so important to develop an interface in which we will be comfortable, or we will know how to interact with alien presences who come and go in our planet and in our solar system. Alan Steinfeld is there to discuss how his contact experience helped him transcend what he calls the old cultural confines and open up to new realities. He's going to demonstrate what he calls a new application for the human mind in learning how to welcome unknowns. And he is going to show how we all can activate our greater potential in order to really put our arms around and our consciousness around higher dimensional entities, that we might start having a completely new evolutionary perception of intelligence, as opposed perhaps to something that has been written about in books, that it will become a real and a dynamic interaction between human minds and other intelligences in this universe, and perhaps even other dimensions, and it won't be considered mythological. It's going to be the next stage of consciousness interacting with other intelligences for real in this cosmos. Jennifer Stein from Philadelphia will present a detailed PowerPoint revealing her research protocols and protocols that are used by a variety of investigators. And she is looking at peer-reviewed literature reports that are trying to explain either logically or some other way what would be called the mysterious energy signatures, is her phrase, in the beautiful, mysterious, strange, enigmatic crop formations that have been seen and photographed around this entire planet in both hemispheres since at least the beginning of the 1990s. And I will be talking further again on the whistleblower revelations, artificial intelligence, and an alien presence. So for more information on the Vermont gathering that is smaller than New York, please contact Mia Ferriato. The phone number and the email are going to be provided by Lori in social media. And so go there and check all of that out. Now, The third is June 1 to 4. And that's Contact in the Desert in a brand new place, the Renaissance Indian Wells Resort and Spa. That's in Indian Wells, California. And it is sort of a sweet sadness in some ways. Some of us were getting used to desert living in tremendous heat, almost like a survival camp, to go to the last 4 contacts in the desert. But we all have had so much fun there that even in the hot desert heat and where we were at Joshua Tree, there was something about all of us coming together and enjoying the ability to be up at midnight or 1 o'clock with a warm breeze, as warm as it felt, in the late afternoon. Well, now it's going to be so interesting to see what it will be like to be in Indian Wells in an actual conference building resort all together. And we're really looking forward to that. I am going to be doing 2 lectures, a Saturday workshop, and a huge Monday intensive workshop. And that is where I'm going into many more whistleblower revelations that have to do with Antarctica, Mars, the moon, and the ancient history of our own planet in relationship to the Anunnaki, the Sumerians, and the whole puzzle of what has Mesopotamia been on this earth in the very, very ancient past, and then millions of years ago, and today. So that is Contact in the Desert, June 1 to 4. I hope I'll see a lot of you at the Renaissance Indian Wells Resort and Spa in Indian Wells, California. And then comes something that none of us know what it's going to be like. The title is Ancient Aliens Alien Con. It is taking place June 15 to 17. It is going to be at the Pasadena Convention Center in Pasadena, California. And when I was last in production with Ancient Aliens just a couple of weeks ago in Los Angeles, somebody said that they might have 20,000 people going through this Alien Con. I'm really looking forward to it. We're going. The work will be, we will be doing autographs. We will be doing photos like on a prescribed basis. But we're going to be able to see and talk to a lot of you in and around these panels and the lectures. And it is going to be like a combination of a conference and then this whole new experimental autographing and photographing with a huge number of people. And I think there are about a dozen of us who have been with Ancient Aliens right from the beginning. We're now taping the 11th season that will start airing soon. And I've been there since the first season when the crew and I met in Roswell, and we went out to a place that was supposed to be somewhere near the alleged crash site of the one called the Corona UFO crash site. And it was a cold, windy, gusty day, and the cameraman wanted me to walk and talk along an edge of land with the alleged Roswell crash site in the distance behind me. And we started with the camera, and I'm ready to walk and to talk, which is difficult under any circumstances. And a gust of about 70 to 80 mile an hour winds. I think it blew off my parka. I couldn't breathe when you have a blast of wind coming into you and you cannot get air. And I remember we took maybe, I don't know, 8 or 10 takes trying to do that walk. And this is just an insight that when we go on location with Ancient Aliens, we are really out in this world with weather and difficulties. But in the end, it is the most satisfying feeling in the world to go to places and be able to bring back to you who are interested in Earth Mysteries and an alien presence, and to bring back stories that you get to see the locale of some of the sites where phenomena have occurred. And we're doing that this season as well. So that is going to be the Ancient Aliens Con, Alien Con, June 15th to 17th at the Pasadena Convention Center. And I really, really look forward to seeing that many people coming out as enthusiasts for ancient aliens and wanting this breakthrough to the truth we all deserve, that we're not alone in this universe, and that these are not hypothetical stories. These are stories on ancient aliens that are building up to this big crack in the policies of denial and a cheer for getting on to the real truth about our past, our present, and our future. Now, at the end of June, June 22nd to 24th, so this is just a few days actually after I get back from or leave Pasadena, I will be in Toronto, Canada. And this is for the Toronto Alien Cosmic Expo, June 22nd to 24th. It's going to be held at the Toronto Airport Marriott Hotel in Toronto. That makes it easy. You fly into Toronto and you don't have far to go. And I'm going to be presenting the 90-minute, I consider it one of the most complex programs that I've ever done. The title is Symbols and Binary Code in High Strangeness Phenomena. And this will be an updated version of the presentation that I did in Manchester, England in on March 4th, a year ago. And there were 2,000 and some people in the audience that night. It was Eric von Daniken and I were the two evening speakers. And I wasn't certain if in the large English audience that we had there, if going into binary code and weaving it with translations, weaving it with complex, what I call self-activating software incidents, would hit in with where the audience was in relationship to all of this evolving mystery. And when I finished my 90-minute program and I said, "Thank you, Manchester," the entire audience rose up in a screaming standing ovation. I shared this with you, not this. I'm not doing that. What it said to me was, it was an answer to my question going there. Where is this audience in relationship to some of the complex issues and phenomena in trying to open up the truth about other intelligences? And that standing up, screaming audience was, yes, we don't want to be talked down to. Yes, we understand, we want more. And it's given me a kind of courage to go forward into some of the difficult subjects I'm trying to work with now in conferences, and will be reporting at earthfiles.com. Everything I'm doing in conferences, I will then place in earthfiles.com in 2 or 3 months. So for those of you who are listening, know that so many other people on this planet are like you, intelligent. They know that we have been living on a conned planet, a planet of so many policies of denials, and that it's beginning to feel a little bit like spring air when audiences are way past government efforts to keep them in the dark. And it's the audiences who are reacting to subject matter because they either have firsthand knowledge or they are beginning to read and explore and push boundaries that are leading into these complex subjects that some of us thought that people weren't ready for. And I think everybody is demonstrating they are way past ready for everything. So after I do the Toronto, I will be back to concentrate for a while on earthfiles.com before more travel, and I will give you updates on that in the future. And so everybody listening, check with Lori Moriarty's, what she has posted for the registration tickets for all these various events in social media. And I would like to shift gears now because I still have, look at all these pages of your intelligent questions that have been coming through our Earth Files YouTube channel Wednesday evenings. And this is only one of the bound. We have more. And your questions, just like that audience in Manchester, are showing me that you all are thinking in complex ways, and you're asking excellent questions. And so, periodically, maybe every other week for a while, I'm going to go into 4 or 5 questions in some depth, and then ask all of you tonight, when I have gone through this Q&A, submit to me the questions that you have, and we'll sort of keep this volume of my Earth Files YouTube channel audience evolving with your questions, and I will just keep dipping into them, and we'll have sort of an eternal conversation at Earth Files YouTube channel for as long as we can. So, with that, and thank you for being here tonight, I'm going to begin with a question. With all the bizarre weather, earthquakes, mass animal deaths happening on Earth now, what do you believe in all your years of research and wisdom? I hope I have some wisdom. It's a tremendous amount of curiosity. Is happening to our planet right now. Is a binary star a Nibiru or something biblical, or something completely different than everything we know? Is it coming? We all feel as though something is happening or about to, and Lord knows we aren't going to be given any timely information from our government. I really like this question because everywhere, at Eureka Springs, one of the dominant, everybody getting together was, does it feel palpable to you that it feels as if like a big wave is about to hit a beach, or that feeling before a thunderstorm, and you can come up with your own metaphors. Everybody's feeling like there's something like agitation, something waiting, timeline to shift, something big to happen geophysically, in some other way. That's what everybody's feeling, and that's her question. And could it, she's asking, be related to the Sumerian, the Zecharia Sitchin work having to do with some of the carvings in the Sumerian clay, the cuneiform, that talk about a planet called Nibiru. And from the Sumerian clay, the Nibiru was supposed to be an additional planet, but something that was a traveler, a wanderer, not a permanent part of our solar system, but that something that maybe came in, got caught somehow in the gravitational mass force of the solar system, but is supposed to be orbiting far out in a very elongated orbit, and then come back into the inner solar system and perhaps cause total catastrophe on Earth and the surrounding closer planets, and that it's supposed to do this every 3,600 years. Because I am an investigative reporter, because I honor the pressure of fact, I have taken Zecharia Sitchin's work long ago. I took it to an astronomer in Ireland who was noted for looking for any physical evidence on our planet in either hemisphere that might orient astronomers to look for something that might have an orbit on some kind of a cyclic time. That's who I took the Zecharia Sitchin work and asked him. And he said that he was not adverse to considering Zecharia Sitchin's work, and that in fact other people had brought him the exact same question. Could there be a large planetary body that is referred to by Sitchin and in the Sumerian as Nibiru? Could it be lurking out somewhere far, far out in the Oort cloud and still have the ability on some tremendously long looping orbit to come into this part of the solar system? And he said, as much as he has looked and that he has found cycles about other issues, he has never found a single cycle that would match 3,600 years in an orbit. Now, go to the recent work of Michael Brown at the University of Southern California, an astronomer who is greatly respected for the discoveries he has made in the Kuiper Belt and in the Oort cloud that surround our solar system. He is the discoverer of Sedna. He has been the one who knocked Pluto out of its planet status into a dwarf planet, Kuiper Belt, because he found some of these bodies out in the Kuiper Belt that were bigger than Pluto. And so they became planetary, and Pluto was reduced to a dwarf planet. Well, in Professor Brown's work, he is the one in the last 2 years, and I've done reporting about this at earthfiles.com and on Coast to Coast and in other broadcasts. He is the one who had the announcement go around the world that he has found perturbations. Perturbations. That means a comet is coming like this in the solar system. And then astronomers see the comet move off right or left or up or down. It's a perturbation in the gravitational orbital mechanics of a nice, orderly solar system in which the mass of all of the matter objects keep everything going in what is called an orbiting plane. So if comets out in the Kuiper Belt or the Oort cloud suddenly start changing from the nice phonograph record that's going around and around, those perturbations can be noted, observed, and calculated by astronomers all over the planet. It's not confined to the United States or Russia or China or England or anybody. There's over 1,000 astronomers. So when they start doing calculations on what could make the perturbations that they have been seeing out, in this case, this particular one by Professor Brown is out in the Oort cloud. It's over 1/4 of a light year from here. And his conclusion was that the mass that could be causing the perturbation would be something at least 10 times the mass of our planet Earth. Well, Earth is 8,000 miles in diameter, 25,000 miles around in circumference. So we're talking about something that is having an impact on the gravitational tug and pull of the solar system about 1/4 of a light year or more away, where there are noticeable perturbations in comets, and that when they work out the math, that object is at least 10 times the mass of our Earth. Well, the last time that I did an interview with Professor Brown, he was getting ready to go to Hawaii to use the Keck Observatory, which has some of the finest infrared equipment on the planet, on our Earth. And the goal was, and has not been updated, but he was hoping that they were going to be able to see with some long duration time lapse, looking at this one particular part of the Oort cloud. They were hoping they could find this object in infrared. The last time that I did the interview was a year ago, or a little less than a year ago, and they had not been able to see anything in visible light or any other spectrum. And yet, the perturbation of the comets and other bodies out there are indicating that there is something huge there, and it cannot be seen. One hypothesis is that this was destined once upon a time, 4 billion and some years ago, to be a binary star system, and that what could be out there and not visible even in infrared is a brown dwarf, the sun, the second sun that died. That is one hypothesis. So when you put all of this together, Planet X, or Planet 10, if Professor Brown had found something that was like a Nibiru from the Sumerian text, it is something that should be able to be seen in infrared, and he should be able to find evidence of something that would have a long looping orbit. This brand new huge of invisible mass does have a looping orbit. They've calculated it with computer models. But he stressed, all the way from a quarter to a half a light year out in the Oort cloud, the closest that this massive invisible object would come to us in we'll call it the inner and middle solar system, it wouldn't come any closer than the area of Neptune to Uranus. Never, the math shows it would never come into the inner solar system, which is where Mercury and Venus and Earth and Mars and the asteroid belt and getting to Saturn where they are. So that's why I feel like that the questions about a Nibiru or a large planet, I can't see any evidence for anything that is known to all these astronomers around the whole planet, that they don't have any hard evidence there's anything like that. Now, could there be a surprise? Yes. Would something show up like a wandering planet that hasn't been in our so-called solar system, Kuiper Belt, and the Oort cloud? There are wandering planets. We know that they can be wandering planets from one solar system to another. But right now, in April of 2018, there is no hard evidence that I'm aware of that there is any planetary body like a Nibiru that could be interacting with us in our inner solar system. And the question was larger, having to do with this palpable feeling that people seem to be having everywhere, that something big is going to happen. And so what I'm doing is saying, on a chessboard, I think we can move that pawn of something like a Nibiru off to the side. And it leaves still a lot of other pawns. There could be geophysical changes on our planet that people could be picking up that have nothing to do with a Nibiru planet. So I hope that this gives you a little bit of insight about the astronomical hard physical data that still adds up to a mystery for Professor Brown. Where is and what is that mass exactly? And hopefully sometime soon he's going to get that breakthrough data and make an announcement, and I'll carry it here at Earth Files and I'll share it with you. Now I'm going to go on to another good question. In 1980, Cash Landrum saw 23 double rotor helicopters surrounding their UFO. This was the RAF Bentwaters Woodbridge that John Burroughs, that I co-host Phenomena Radio with, was twice engulfed in light at the big NATO Air Force Base, December 26th and 28th, 1980. Within 48 hours, there was the Cash Landrum case down in Houston. And for those who might not have heard, you can also Google Cash Landrum, and there's much about this, but the short form is that two women and a boy, one was a grandson, pulled up in a car and stopped as a huge, big diamond, glowing, blasting white light seemed to have a couple of dozen or 20, I think they said 23, double rotor helicopters going around this blasting white light from this gleaming diamond, and that the diamond kept coming down slowly down toward the road, where they stopped their car in complete astonishment about what was happening. Unfortunately, the driver got out. One of the women got out and walked to the front of the car. And now we know that she was exposed to terahertz frequencies and other frequencies emanating from, and that's the question. The assumption is it was some kind of alien technology that our government was trying to learn how to fly, or it was something that was hybridized between American technology and something alien, and whatever was happening, they were losing control over it for a while. And the woman who got out in front of I think it was Betty Cash, she was irradiated, and she ended up dying of cancer. In the car, the woman in the back with the boy, they didn't get out, but they suffered also from some radiation. It's a big, long, complex story. And she said the extravagant number of, this is a man, the extravagant number of copters, or the choppers, going around this big diamond would have been unnecessary. And I recall that one of your cattle mutilation witnesses described a helicopter morphing into a black square, which then changed into a disc. Can we not infer today that the Cash Landrum incident was 100% alien, with no human involvement, except for the witness victims? Is not the mountain of proof today sufficient to erase military MILAB involvement and place the blame squarely upon the aliens? It's an interesting question. Now, first, I'm going to talk about that transformation that the writer is referencing. My documentary for television, A Strange Harvest, about my investigation of the animal mutilations, not only in Colorado, but around the region and in Canada, and then discovering that this was a phenomena that had been happening in both hemispheres around the world since the beginning of the 20th century, and the hallmarks were no blood at the excisions, often no tracks around the animals, and that internal organs in necropsies that were done, it would be found that internal organs ranging from the heart to the bladder to esophagus to various organs were removed without any blood or even liquid on the inside of the bodies of animals, and the important underlying fact: no external surgery on the surface of the bodies. Removal of internal organs without surgical excisions on the bodies. Some scientists have suggested it is a molecular surgical scalpel, something we don't have on the earth and someday may, but it's something in the future where we would be able to do surgery with what is called resonating frequencies. And you would have an instrument that would have a resonant frequency with the kidney or the gallbladder or the heart or the liver and so forth. and that would go through skin, cartilage, bone, everything, and not cut them. But when it reached the resonant frequency of the matter that it was seeking inside the body, then on screens, surgeons would be able to do surgery that was molecular specific. And that has been the one explanation given to me by a medical doctor who, upon looking at photographs, studying some of the documents that I have shared of animals in which there are no excisions on the outside of the body, but with internal organs missing, says that's the only only logical thing. So that's an alien technology that we don't have on Earth in human medicine. And that separates the animal mutilations from the beginning of the 20th century from all of the government counterintelligence efforts to convince people that it was predator, disease, or satanic cult. That was their mantra. Those were the three words. You can look at newspapers and magazines and you will find that phrase, as if the reporter didn't even question, and the reporter was taking a handout or hearing a press conference where law enforcement was ordered to say it is predator, disease, or satanic cult, and there was not a shred of evidence that any of those three were the explanation for the animal mutilations. And that's where my work, A Strange Harvest, my books, An Alien Harvest, Glimpses of Other Realities, the 2-volume book, pick up, and I go into deep investigation with a variety of people ranging from veterinarian pathologists and human pathologists and biochemists and on, trying to get hard evidence about these strange animal mutilations and what has happened at these excisions. And we have been able to confirm that whatever the technology is, it cooks the hemoglobin and it cooks the collagen. And that was body of work I did with Dr. John Altshuler in Denver. And I went out into the pastures 20 or 30 times with formalin solution and with Tupperware so that I could get the mutilator's cut. If there was a sheriff's cut, I identified with detailed labels. Here's Linda's cut around, here's the sheriff's cut, here's the mutilation cut. And then we would study the differences in these excisions. And after my 90-minute special on May 25th, 1980, it was like a bomb went off. It was the largest rating in Arbitron and Nielsen for any project that had been ever produced at the CBS station in Denver before then and since. And that meant that there were so many people who had deep interest in animal mutilations, probably because they were ranchers, they had firsthand knowledge. And after that show, it was probably within 2 or 3 days at the station that the mailroom called me up and said, Linda, we must have 1,000 letters. And they started bringing up a mailbag. And the first letters were from the Denver region, and then the mail bags kept coming, and I started even getting international mail. And in all of these letters, one was from a Denver insurance agent. And he sent along a sketch. It was a very intelligent letter. And to boil it down, he said that he and his, it was one of his children, they were on the steps of the house. He was getting ready to go someplace, and one of his children had run out into the yard. And then the father and the son hear what at first they thought in the distance was a helicopter. But as it approached, the sound went away, it became completely silent, and simultaneously it transformed from a helicopter into a square, a perfect solid black square. And the black square was right above the street near the front of their house. And then the square rose up, and as it was rising, and he starts yelling for his mother-in-law, and everybody come see this, it transformed into a disc. And the disc is sitting there, and the father, the son, and the mother-in-law all saw this. And then the disc just went straight up and disappeared. So his sketch was showing that from the west, it looked like a helicopter, black and dark. But then it became completely silent, went into this black square that changed into the disc that took off. And the insurance man asked me, as director of special projects at the CBS station in Denver, was this proof that helicopters that might look and sound like helicopters could actually be extraterrestrial machines camouflaged as helicopters, and that he had a demonstration of how it could morph and change into these other things. And I actually think now, more than I knew back then, that we have had examples of camouflaging, morphing, changing matter before the eyes of so many people around this planet, whether it looked like a helicopter or it looked like an oil barrel. As one case, this was an engineer from Sandia Labs in New Mexico, and he told me that he was driving on a freeway, saw oil barrels stacked up, and suddenly one of the oil barrels lifted up and went right up into the sky, and he was so freaked out he pulled the car over with his leg shaking. There was another engineer who was driving along on a freeway paralleling railroad tracks between Denver and was headed for Sterling in Colorado. And he said that he became alarmed because he could see two boxcars that were sitting on some of the railroad track. And he said, where is the engine to push them? There could be a catastrophe here. And he said, as soon as he's thinking, I must get to a phone, there was no cell phones back, this would have been in the mid-70s. He's thinking, I've got to get someplace, which would be like a gas station, and use a payphone, and call somebody. The two boxcars rose straight up in the air and disappeared. These are examples of credible people with engineering and science backgrounds who have testified about what they have seen of things morphing in the environment, like what the man had reported. And this, going to this question, could Cash Landrum, could the big white diamond have been some kind of a flaunting of some kind of extraterrestrial alien theatrical event? It's possible. But I would say that the likelihood is, based on everything that I know and long discussions with John Schuessler, who was the head of MUFON and investigated that case, that the conclusion was that there was some sort of an experiment. And the question was it entirely an ET craft, or was it something that we were hybridizing as technology? Sorry, it's my friendly allergies. But you're asking good, complex questions. And you're beginning to join me on this 16-layered chess game. That you can't tell the players without technology. You can't get from one layer in the chess game without understanding more technology and the true agendas of what are we dealing with. Earth could be somebody's experimental educational school. And that all of the hauntingness, as John Keel said in his very, very brilliant book, The Haunted Planet, that we are on a planet that has had all of these layers of strangeness, high strangeness, for millennia, partly because maybe we are purposefully manipulated for reasons that are incomprehensible to us even today. So Cash Landrum, I think that probably John Schuessler and others would say it was a combination of an alien technology that our government was trying to back engineer, or was trying to be even taught by alien pilots how to fly. That might be closer than that everything, including the helicopters, were an alien theatrical production. But the very fact that we don't have an answer, and that it took place right after RAF Bentwaters in England, and then in Houston, on the other side of the globe, that something that huge and dramatic that took years of investigation by John Schuessler would today still be a mystery, underscores really how complicated it is to understand something that is in an alien category that none of us understand, because we've been denied the ability to learn much of anything outside of the whistleblowers who have tried to help some of us understand some details about what is happening on this earth with an alien presence. Now, there are a lot more, and as I said, I'm going to dip in and out of these questions, and we're coming to the end of this YouTube channel, but I'm just going to pick up on one question which I thought was very interesting, and that is, Linda, why do you think there were so many reported UFO crashes in the 1940s, but hardly any since? The truth, there have been all kinds of craft retrievals, whether they were crashes or simply placed, some even suspected to be Trojan horses, specifically placed, undamaged, in a southwestern corner in the Big Hill Air Force Base in Provo, Utah, placed in a flat area of Italy, placed around the planet. There have been craft with no crashes, and our government has been the one government that has been trying to get to all of these locations, but China and Russia and others have too. So you've got the possibility of strategy that non-humans have deliberately placed a variety of technologies and craft to see or guide or provoke humans to back engineer. The other thing is, Stanton Friedman and I talked about this at great length back in the end of the 1980s. And that was, he and others were beginning to find historic data and fact that we were experimenting with very, very intense, strong microwaves. And we had a triangulation in some places that were supposed to, with microwave, we were supposed to protect Los Alamos, where we developed the atomic bomb, Sandia Labs over at Kirtland Air Force Base here in Albuquerque, and other places in triangular configurations. And we would have very strong microwaves that we could turn on with the idea that if anything came that seemed to be suspect in an alien category, we could blast these microwaves in triangular patterns. And Stanton thought that that might explain that in the beginning, in the 40s, this might have been an unexpected technology on the part of the androids sent and programmed to be working on Earth, not the prime intelligence that made the androids. And that some of the crashes may have come down because of our microwave blast efforts. Then we would have tried to develop microwave weapons. to bring down the disks and the cylinders and the triangles and the spheres and all of these many different shapes. But over time, I've talked with several people, whether they were military whistleblowers or others that have investigated on the aerospace side of things, and the consensus seems to be that every time that we thought that we had a technology that was going to be able to bring down these unidentified aerial objects, they would change. So what would work at one point in time wouldn't work against them at a later time. And if you took it all into a huge, huge box, it is almost as if a big cat and mouse game has been played by one or more alien intelligences on this planet for millennia, and that with each century there have been changes in the game. And today, maybe for the very first time, a large and growing segment of the human population is beginning, through maybe genetic wiring with each generation, to become more comfortable and more curious about, we're in a big universe, 13.8 billion light years, enough time for there to have been 4 waves of advanced civilizations. And that the next step, I hope, is that we're going to start getting some truth, and we're going to start meeting some of these intelligences, and I hope that a lot of them are allies to Homo sapiens sapien, because we are a conscious life form that I think has a very powerful and valuable soul, and that all life forms in this universe may not have been gifted with such souls, and that there probably is a destiny, no matter what we feel about the palpable shaking of something like just around the bend of time, that no matter what it is, there is a destiny to humans surviving. And that's why I do the work I do. Thank you. I'll see you next week.
Hey, Linda?
Yes.
Hey, before we sign out for tonight, can we give out a couple of thank yous?
Oh, yes, please.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Nicole Heron, Nancy Volker, Matt, Dar Smith, Respirigu, and Alex. Thank you so much for your super chats and your support.
Thank you very, very, very much.